In the earliest days of the computer, programmers saved then scarce memory by omitting the first 2 digits of the year in the date field. Ultimately, technicians realized that computers wouldn't be able to tell the year 2000 from 1900. With so many things relying on time-sensitive computers, the potential for trouble is enormous. Forecasts for the year 2000 problem have varied widely, ranging from a glitch to a stinging bug, from a technological Armageddon to a major storm to simply a pain in the neck. What's the view of the man who heads up Milwaukee's Y2k efforts?
We neither think that there will be great catastrophes, and we also don't think that nothing will happen. And I think everyone's job, and particularly the city government's job, is to make sure that the systems that we can control and that we can have an impact on will be as likely to run uninterrupted as possible, so we don't, disrupt or inconvenience any citizen services. Having said that, we can't guarantee that things won't happen, and I'm sure that some failures will occur.
Alderman Don Richards oversees the Common Council's activities in the Y2k area, heading the city's Information Policy Committee.
Is the sky falling, and do we have to jump out of the way? Or should we just stonewall this and say, this is just a joke, this is some scheme somebody made up to sell computers? And the truth is somewhere in the middle. So yeah, it is important that we do some adjusting and make some changes now. And that yes, there is time to do it, but no, there isn't time to delay and pretend that it's going to go away by itself.
So while we're trying to make as many corrections as we can and test those systems to make sure they work, I'm sure someplace, somehow, something will go wrong. We hope to minimize that risk as much as possible. That includes inventorying every computer system, computer applications and programs, computer databases, and then things that might have chips in them, electromechanical devices. Well, for example, when you think of delivery of water to your home, you think of water just kind of coming through pipes and getting there. But of course, this is dependent on a very huge system which has a lot of machines and computers and electromechanical devices in it, which may or may not be date dependent. We have to look at all of those devices. There are thousands of devices that need to be inventoried and checked. So it's a very time-consuming and complicated process.
City departments have been working to identify and resolve Y2k problems for quite some time. As an example, Public Works reported on several areas of concern last October.
One is the sewer system, and for the most part, the sewers are all gravity. But we do have a number of pumps which are mechanically controlled, but the information systems that we have going out to the mechanically controlled pumps are all being updated this year, and so that will be fully 2000 compatible. Most of all of our traffic signals are controlled by controllers on site, and those are on a day of the week type of programming. In other words, 7 days, and they're programmed for each 7 days, so they're not programmed by the year. So they're compatible. The present control we have for street lighting does not utilize computer controls, but as the Commissioner indicated, we are going to be looking at updating some of that, but certainly anything we buy will be compatible. So for our major components, we should be in good shape.
The city has already made many contingency plans, including backup generators at all police and fire stations and potential emergency shelters. A new Y2k compliant financial system has been installed. It's not only a massive but a costly problem as well. The city budget includes $10 million in contingency borrowing authority.
Our hope is to not touch a penny of that borrowing authority, just let it sit and lapse. But we wanted to be prepared if worse came to worst and we had to do something.
As concerns rise about computers going haywire from a year 2000 bug, Another unknown is what will happen to all the devices with computer chips embedded in them, especially date-sensitive microchips. They lurk inside everything from cars to airplanes, coffee makers to fire trucks. Individuals, too, can take some simple precautions.
Even in average citizens' homes, they may have a lot of technology that could be affected by year 2000, such as thermostats or even microwaves or coffee makers, anything that could have a date or time-dependent function or a chip in it. So it's not just computers, it's a lot of what they call embedded chips in various systems as well. And as you know, most equipment today has embedded electronic technology in it. So it can affect citizens in their everyday lives as well at home, and there are things that they should probably check on. Our goal in city government is to assure ourselves that we do everything possible to minimize inconveniences to citizens. That doesn't mean that citizens don't need to take some responsibility for their own well-being.
Milwaukee officials believe it's most likely that the actions being taken will work for the most part, but not without some problems. And they note the city is not alone in its concerns.
If a computer works, it doesn't matter if we don't have power to run it. So of course we're concerned that the utilities, the electric company, the gas company, the telephone utilities are going to work, because these are the things we're dependent on in our everyday lives. So we're also meeting with them, and they're concerned that our systems are going to work. So there's a lot of interdependency, and we're all trying to meet and help each other get over this hump and assure that all the systems will work and will work together.
We went to the water department and said, can you produce water through the change in the, if the worst happens at the year 2000? And they said, well, yeah, as long as WEBCO produces electricity, So they pointed to WEBCO, and then we went to WEBCO and said, oh, well, are you going to be able to produce electricity in the year 2000? And they said, well, yeah, as long as we got water supply for our turbines, So here we were, And that's the nature of the problem. But it isn't an insurmountable technological problem. It isn't something that we don't know how to fix. It's just that we have to fix it so many times. And the City of Milwaukee's responsibility is to see that our vital services continue and are maintained. What's the city doing? The city is doing a systematic, and has been doing for the past year now, at least a year, a systematic checking of all of our systems and checking of our suppliers of energy and suppliers of computer-related things, and any people that we buy from, and also any people that we have just exchange information with. We have checked all those systems. And because of this, we can have confidence that, to the extent that it's possible, that we will be ready for the year 2000.
As the year goes on, the city and others will be working to make the public more aware of potential year 2000 computer problems and develop plans to deal with any disruption of essential services. While all are working to make this a non-event, we probably won't know the outcome for sure until January 1st.
Now this is Abram Smith. He was 19 years old. This is Thomas Shipp. He was 18 years old. Tommy and I went to the same country school together. And this picture was taken August the 7th, 1930 in Marion, Indiana. I was 16 years old. They meant for me to be hanging around Abe here, see? First they took
James Cameron says he still doesn't know exactly why his life was spared that day. A Ku Klux Klan lynch mob had stormed the Marion jail where the three were being held for the armed robbery and murder of a white man. Cameron, who was beaten severely, says he had no part in the killing. Cameron wanted to preserve a history of such atrocities for future generations, and a visit to a Holocaust museum in Israel got him started.
And they have other pictures in there that's very disturbing. When I came out of there and controlled myself, I told my wife, I said, honey, we need a museum like this in America to show what has happened to black people and freedom-loving white people who have been trying to help us ever since we've been in this country. So this is it. It's right here in Milwaukee, Wisconsin.
The only black museum of its kind is located near 4th and North Avenue. It opened here in 1995 after being in several other locations since 1988.
Well, our mission is to educate our visitors about the African American experience, and also to provide our guests with an opportunity to rethink their assumptions about race and racism. And it's our core belief that the reason there may be rifts or problems with race relations nationwide is that people are simply uneducated about one another's histories and our cultures and the things that make us not only different, but the things that make us alike.
The museum had to rely on gifts and grants to bring it up to code and pay for a $100,000 renovation. Major grants include $56,000 from the Helen Bader Foundation and nearly $25,000 from the Milwaukee Foundation. The city of Milwaukee has also been a contributor.
The city of Milwaukee gave this building to America's Black Holocaust Museum for $1 back in 1994. In addition to that, we've received other grants from the city of Milwaukee, facade renovation grants, community block grant monies to help us not only with the building but also program issues as well.
The museum's first major exhibit, Race and Religion Under Fire, tells the story of recent fires at black churches across the South. Another major exhibit is coming in May.
It's actually kind of a coup for us. We are the Wisconsin host of the Henrietta Marie Slave Ship Exhibition. And the Henrietta Marie is an actual slave ship that sank off the Key West of Florida in 1701. And the wreckage was discovered in 1975, and a team of African American divers volunteered their time to go and retrieve the wreckage of the slave ship.
Cameron was the subject of a BBC documentary. He's told his story to Oprah, Larry King, and others. He's written a book titled A Time of Terror. Word is it may be an HBO movie this year. Cameron, who celebrates his 85th birthday this month, says his museum is a dream come true.
I got this museum here. It's going good. It's going good. The good Lord is blessing me. Every time I come here, I'm being blessed by something. And I appreciate that. But it's here for people to come in and see and be educated and know that this country is black people's country as well as white people's country. So when people come in here, they find out that black people did vote for the Constitution of the United States of America, which is the cornerstone, should be the cornerstone of our educational system in this country. But instead, it is one of the most well-kept secrets in the American educational system that black people actually voted for the Constitution of the United States of America. They'll learn that we are supposed to be one single and sacred nationality. We are not supposed to be divisible like we are. We're supposed to be indivisible with liberty and justice for all. That's what we have to do. We have to start re-educating our people. We've educated them to ignorance, and ignorance can be erased by learning.
The American Black Holocaust Museum is open from 9 to 5 Monday through Friday. There is an admission charge. For information, call 264-2500. Cameron says the museum may be the reason he was spared by that lynch mob nearly 70 years ago.
It's my contribution, I hope, to try to achieve a single and sacred nationality in our country.
This fire last December on Milwaukee's north side is one example. 2 firefighters were injured in this blaze. Officials say the area around a gas wall space heater ignited because the heater was not properly vented. It happens all too often.
Space heaters can be a real serious problem if certain precautions aren't taken in their use.
This fire department demonstration shows dramatically why care must be taken when using space heaters, why they should always have at least 3 feet of open area surrounding them, why they should never be placed near combustible items. The Fire Education Unit's demonstration burn room has a graphic reminder of space heater misuse, one taken from a fatal fire.
This is the ultimate instrument of disaster for a family. At the time our company entered the room, some classic mistakes were made with that space heater. It was very, very close to the bedding, and it ignited the bedding while the kids were playing on the bed. And the space heater was in the line of traffic, or the flow of traffic, to where once the fire started, the people in the room could not leave that room. When the cords burn away like this and you see the metal, you tend to suspect that this space heater was working extremely hard and melted away the plastic sheathing of this and potentially ignited the combustibles leading up to the heater, and then the fan just blew the flame basically. Many of the space heaters that are out there today that have caused problems have been purchased at rummage sales without instructions to the owners. So be very careful of the rummage sale bargain and understand that a space heater is something that must be treated with a lot of respect.
Space heaters come in many shapes, sizes, types, wattages, and prices. Whatever type you buy, make sure it has an automatic cutoff switch, which will turn the heater off in case it is tipped over. Make sure you keep the warning labels and manufacturer's instructions and follow them.
They were never meant to heat a whole home, so they should be left at a comfortable range of operation so as not to tax their capabilities. The other thing, and really most critical, I feel, is that when you use a space heater, they should never be left unattended. If for some reason you have to leave the room, they should be shut off.
It's not recommended that extension cords be used with space heaters, but if you do, make them as short as possible and be sure they are capable of handling the load.
The space heaters have a great deal of draw. If they're used within that initial length of that cord, they work within that range. But once you increase that length of that cord, you increase the draw and you create a potential for a fire ignition source.
A problem of another kind can result when trying to heat with another familiar appliance.
Now, when you leave those objects unattended and turn that stove on and say that oven, you begin to eat up the oxygen or deplete the oxygen in that room. Even though you're heating up that room, you're depleting that oxygen. So therefore, you're creating a hazard, which may be carbon monoxide exposure, as well as the open flames of the stove.
Similar problems can be caused by kerosene, gas, and oil space heaters, which have become increasingly popular. The city of Milwaukee has rules requiring proper venting of combustion heaters.
This is dangerous in one, that you bring a fuel into a home, and two, you burn a stove, again, atmosphere, in this heater, and it creates carbon monoxide. If this stove is not used with proper ventilation, that could be a real problem.
Fire officials say problems with space heaters also point up the importance of having a smoke detector, a working smoke detector. This one, which had no batteries, was taken from a fatal fire.
Smoke detector is of no value unless it has a battery in it. And it's very critical, and these are hard lessons to learn. And many times we hold on to these for show and tell, but to recreate the actual scenes and episodes that led to the loss of a life.
If you have questions about the proper use of space heaters or any other fire safety question, contact the Milwaukee Fire Department's Fire Education Unit